I'm a lot of things, but in lots of ways, I'm a breast cancer advocate. And I've been in the breast cancer world for 22 years. And a lot of my life since then has been involved in teaching about breast cancer and cancer more broadly. I found a lump under my left nipple, and I was just scratching my chest one night, and I felt a little lump that felt almost like a pencil eraser, and I wasn't too concerned. But then a few weeks later, I was driving home from work, and I suddenly felt some wetness on my chest. Looked down, saw there's blood. I got home, took off my shirt, realized I was bleeding from that same nipple, and I thought, it's probably connected. So I went to see my family doctor the next day, and he was good. He said, if you were a woman, we'd take these symptoms very seriously, and we will for you too. He sent me to a surgeon who did a biopsy, and it came back as breast cancer. Like just out of the blue, like again, no family history. And there I was with breast cancer. I remember writing down mastectomy on my calendar book. I mean, it was August 30th, Bob, mastectomy. It was just very surreal. I had a mastectomy, and then I had 6 months of chemo. I had the CMF protocol, which is not used too often today, but sometimes. Did not have radiation because I had the mastectomy. I was estrogen receptor positive, and nearly every man with breast cancer is ER positive. It's even more so than in women. More than 90% of men are ER positive. I began on Tamoxifen, but it just put me into this fog, and I stopped it. It was really ruining the quality of my life. Certainly the most difficult time for me was when treatment ended. And it's a little bit counterintuitive, because you think when you finish your last chemotherapy appointment, it's a time of celebration. But instead, they patted me on the back and said, Bob, you're doing great. We'll see you in 3 months. And that's unsettling. Just making the transition from being the patient where you feel like you're in this cocoon of safe and secure caregivers to suddenly you have to go back to your regular life. And that was hard. That's when I joined a support group for the first time. And knowing that other people went through a similar post-treatment funk was very helpful. It made it more normal. One thing about having cancer is that it's brought me in touch with so many people I wouldn't have met in any other way. I mean, it's a real common denominator. Like we have a men's breakfast group here of men with cancer, all different types of cancer. We have firefighters and professors and laborers, and it's just a fun group that we would not be together if we didn't share, that bond of being cancer survivors. And that's a good thing. I think the biggest change was that I realized that life wasn't guaranteed, and it changed my sort of time horizon. Because I used to think much more long-term, what's going to happen in 20 years or 30 years. And after cancer, I thought much more about, am I happy now? Am I doing what I want to do? Am I with the people I want to be with? When I was diagnosed, I was teaching at Ithaca College. I taught health administration, healthcare policy. I was trained as a hospital administrator, so I spent really my entire career in healthcare. I found that I really liked discussing cancer. And I found that when I spoke to my classes about cancer, many of the students knew someone with cancer, but they didn't feel comfortable asking that person about their cancer. So I was kind of a natural person to ask, and I enjoyed sharing my own experiences. I enjoyed connecting people with cancer, and I just found myself being very comfortable in that world. Cancer Resource Center is now in its 24th year, and we're really designed to serve the people who live in or around Ithaca. And we kind of meet people where they are. Some people come in for emotional support, for support groups. A lot of what we do as an organization is to communicate, to share information, and to get people the right information at the right time. And people have such differing communication needs, but you want to make things accessible and useful to them. In our world, we can't necessarily fix the big problems, but there's always something we can do that makes life somewhat better that day for that person. The book is really a compilation of newspaper columns I've written for the Ithaca Journal. Most of the articles were suggested by clients. My spouse doesn't understand, or how do I tell my kids? And usually there's some universal truth in that. And I would step back and write about it. And most of the columns were about communication more than anything. And people weren't as interested in the science of cancer as how do you talk about cancer? I mean, I can take off my shirt and it's really hard to actually see that I had surgery. I'm missing a nipple, but the contour of my chest didn't change. It didn't really have a dramatic impact. And today I could go to the beach and no one's going to notice. And unless they're literally counting nipples of people walking past, they won't notice. I've talked to other men with breast cancer who feel like, it's kind of a woman's disease and they felt somewhat embarrassed by it. And that was certainly more true when I was first diagnosed. Most men with breast cancer went underground. And today men are more open. But back then I really made it a point to be open and to discuss it and to come to breast cancer events because I wanted to be a literal face at the table. I always encourage people to talk to others, to get second opinions, also to understand that breast cancer is rarely a medical emergency and you have some time to figure out what the best route is. And also, there is no single right way to do it. And I tell people to explore some options, get information, but also listen to your gut. Sometimes you sleep better at night when you realize, I really want to get treatment locally or I want to go elsewhere for treatment. I really like to take part in breast cancer events, whether they're races or discussion groups or photo exhibits, because I think many people know that men can get breast cancer, but it's theoretical. But it's concrete if you have a real face to go with it. So I like to show up, and many people tell me I'm the first man with breast cancer they met. And I like to do that, and it puts it into their head that it's not this abstraction, it's a real thing. And 1% of breast cancer occurs in men. And I think people should understand that and understand that breast cancer affects women and men. I did feel a connection with other people there. It's very reassuring and good to look around the walls and see people with breast cancer, other people with breast cancer, and to see myself up there too.